The shuttle dropped Jake Morrison at Andromeda Station on a cold Tuesday morning. He grabbed his bag and walked through the metal doors into a world he barely understood. Aliens filled the hallways. Big ones, small ones, ones that floated and ones that crawled. Jake had seen pictures, but pictures did not prepare him for the real thing. A tall creature walked past him. It looked like glass shaped into a person. Its body caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. Behind it came something with tentacles in a bubble of water. The tentacles waved at Jake. He waved back, not sure what else to do. Jake was one of 5 humans chosen for this program. Earth had just joined the Galactic Council 3 years ago. Most aliens still thought humans were weak and strange. Some thought Earth should never have been invited at all. But here Jake was, about to train with the best soldiers from dozens of worlds. He found his way to the assembly hall. Hundreds of cadets stood in neat rows. Jake took his place near the back. A woman stood next to him. She had short black hair and hard eyes. "Amy Lynn," she said quietly. "Jake Morrison, you nervous?" "Yeah, you?" "Always." A door opened at the front of the hall. Something massive walked through. It stood over 8 feet tall, covered in dark fur with red marks down its back. Its face was long with sharp teeth that showed even when its mouth was closed. Golden eyes swept across the room. Every cadet went silent. This was a Krithan. Jake had read about them. They came from a planet where everything tried to eat everything else. The Krithans had fought their way to the top. They were fast, strong, and very good at killing things. "I am Commander Veshtral," the Krithan said. His voice was deep and rough. "You are here to learn. You will work in mixed squads. You will eat together, sleep together, and train together. Some of you will fail. Some of you will quit. This is expected." Jake felt his heart beating fast. He was not sure if it was fear or excitement. Maybe both. "Your squad assignments are posted outside this hall. Find your squad. Report to your bunks. Training begins at dawn." The cadets filed out. Jake pushed through the crowd to find the list. Squad 7. He found his name and looked at the others. Amy Lynn was there, good. At least he would know one person. There were 2 names he could not pronounce marked as Velcrin species. One marked as Quillari, and one that made his stomach tight, Raxlin. Species Krithan Amy appeared next to him. She had seen it too. "Well," she said, "this will be interesting." They found their bunk area. It was a large room with 7 beds. The Velcrin cadets were already there. They looked like moving statues made of crystal. One was blue, one was green. They moved carefully as if worried about breaking. "I am Zektor," said the blue one. His voice sounded like bells ringing. "This is Prillin. Jake, this is Amy. We know of humans," Zektor said. "They say you are very aggressive for such small creatures." "We prefer to think of ourselves as determined," Amy said. The Quillari arrived next. It floated in a clear ball filled with liquid. Tentacles pressed against the inside of the ball. "Slash," it said. The voice came from a speaker on the ball. "Nice to meet you," Jake said. Then the door opened again, and Raxlin walked in. The Krithan was young, maybe the same age as Jake in human years, but he was already huge. His fur was black with silver streaks. His claws clicked on the floor. He looked at each of them, those golden eyes missing nothing. The Velcrin cadets moved to the far side of the room. Slesh's tentacles pulled tight. Jake understood. Every instinct they had was screaming that a predator had just entered the room. But Jake had grown up on Earth. He had seen lions on safari. He had swum in oceans with sharks. He knew about predators. He also knew about fear, and he knew that showing fear was the worst thing you could do. "Raxlin," Jake said. "Yes, I'm Jake. This is Amy. Welcome to Squad 7. Raxlin tilted his head. It was a very animal gesture. "You are not afraid?" "I'm terrified," Jake said honestly. "But we're going to be training together. Might as well start on good terms." Something that might have been respect flickered in those golden eyes. Raxlin walked to an empty bunk and sat down. The bed groaned under his weight. "I have heard of humans," Raxlin said. "They say you are strange. That you do not act like prey species even though you are small and weak." "We're not that weak," Amy said. "Compared to my species, you are." Fair point. The first week was brutal. They ran until Jake's legs felt like rubber. They practiced hand-to-hand combat until bruises covered bruises. They learned alien languages and alien weapons. They studied star charts and battle tactics. Raxlin was the best fighter by far. His reflexes were incredible. In combat drills, he moved like liquid death. But Jake noticed something. The Krithin held back. He never used his full strength or his claws. He was trying not to hurt anyone. The Velkrin were smart. They could solve tactical problems faster than anyone else. But they were fragile. During one exercise, Prillin fell and cracked her arm. The crystal limb had to be repaired with special equipment. Slesh was amazing with technology. The Quillari could operate 3 computer systems at once with different tentacles. But physical training was hard. Moving the heavy water ball around took a lot of energy. Amy was tough. She had been a soldier before this. She did not quit, did not complain. When other cadets struggled, she helped them. When Jake felt like giving up, she made him keep going. And Jake? He was not sure what he was good at yet. He was not the strongest or the smartest or the fastest, but he showed up every day and did his best. That had to count for something. 3 weeks in, Squad 7 was starting to work like a team. They learned each other's strengths and weaknesses. They covered for each other. When Zektor struggled with a climbing wall, Jake and Amy helped push him up. When Jake got confused by alien technology, Slesh guided him through it. When Prillin was scared during a night exercise, Raxlin stayed close to protect her, even though his presence was what usually scared others. It was not perfect. There were still problems. The other squads watched them strangely. Some of the other Krythons did not like that Raxlin was working with prey species. Some of the other species did not trust the humans. Earth was new, unknown. Humans did things that did not make sense to alien minds. But Squad 7 kept working. They had to. The final test was coming, and everyone knew it would be the hardest thing they had ever done. They needed to be ready. Jake lay in his bunk that night listening to the strange sounds of his squad mates sleeping. Zektor made a soft chiming noise. Slesh's ball bubbled quietly. Raxlin's breathing was deep and slow. Amy snored. It was weird and uncomfortable and completely alien. It also felt right. They were Squad 7. They were a team. And tomorrow they would get up and do it all again. The mess hall was always crowded during dinner. Hundreds of cadets from dozens of species all trying to eat at the same time made for chaos. Jake had learned to grab his food quickly and find a table before all the good spots were taken. Tonight, Squad 7 sat together near the windows. Outside, stars filled the black of space. Jake looked at them while eating something that was supposed to taste like chicken, but definitely did not. Amy said it tasted like cardboard. Raxlin said it tasted like fear, which Jake decided not to think too hard about. Zektor was explaining something about quantum physics. Jake understood maybe 1 word in 5. Prillin seemed to follow along, her crystal body glowing brighter when she got excited about something. Slesh added comments through the speaker, tentacles waving inside the water ball. Raxlin ate in silence. The Krithin always ate quietly, like he was embarrassed about how much food he needed. Jake had noticed that Raxlin tried to make himself smaller around others. It did not work. You could not hide being 7 feet of muscle and claws and teeth, but Jake appreciated the effort. The mess hall doors opened. A small Krithin walked in. The room went quiet. Not completely silent, but quiet enough that Jake noticed. He looked up and saw what had caused the change. The young Krithan was tiny compared to the adults, maybe 4 feet tall, still covered in the soft fur of childhood. He carried a tray of food and looked around nervously. His golden eyes were huge in his small face. "That is Kresh," Raxlin said quietly, "Commander Veshitral's son. He is only 8 cycles old." "What's he doing here?" Amy asked. "Learning. Krithin young often watch their parents train warriors. It is tradition." The cub named Kresh walked through the mess hall. Other cadets moved out of his way. Not because he was dangerous, but because of what he represented. Even young, even small, he was still a predator. Instincts were hard to ignore. Kresh passed a table where several Quillari cadets sat. One of them was gesturing with a tentacle and did not see the cub coming. The tentacle knocked into Kresh's tray. Food flew everywhere, splattering across the floor and onto Kresh's fur. The mess hall went completely silent now. Kresh stood very still. Then slowly he turned to look at the Quillari who had hit him. The cub's lips pulled back from his small teeth. A sound came from his throat. Low and rumbling and dangerous, he was growling. The Quillari cadet froze. Every tentacle went stiff. The other Quillari at the table pushed back, trying to get away. Around the room, other species did the same. Even the young ones knew that sound. Prey recognized a predator's warning. Jake saw what was happening. The cub was scared and embarrassed. He had reacted on instinct. But if this went wrong, if someone got hurt or if the cub got in trouble, it could undo all the progress they had made. Species would remember this. They would say Chrythons could not be trusted. Jake stood up. Jake, don't, Amy said. He ignored her. His body was moving before his brain caught up with what he was doing. He walked toward the cub. Kresh's eyes locked onto him. The growling got louder. The cub's fur stood up along his spine. His small claws extended. This was a threat display. Every species in the room knew what it meant. Back off or face the consequences. Jake stopped about 6 feet away. He could hear his heart pounding. Every logical part of his brain was screaming at him to run. This was a predator. It did not matter that it was young. It could still hurt him badly. But Jake had grown up on Earth. He had learned something important there. When something growled at you, sometimes you had to growl back. Jake took a breath and let out a low, rumbling sound from deep in his chest. It was not exactly like the cub's growl. Human vocal cords were not built the same way, but it was close enough. It was aggressive and challenging and completely unexpected. The mess hall stayed frozen in shock. Kresh's ears flattened against his head. His tail went stiff. He stared at Jake like he could not believe what had just happened. Prey did not do this. Prey ran away. They submitted. They did not growl back. For a moment, nothing happened. Jake and the cub stared at each other. Jake could feel sweat on his back. His hands wanted to shake, but he kept them still. Then Jake did something even stranger. He laughed. It was not a mean laugh. It was the kind of laugh that came when you realized how crazy a situation was. Here he was, having a growling contest with a child in the middle of a military dining hall while hundreds of aliens watched. It was so ridiculous that he could not help it. The cub's posture changed. His ears came up. His head tilted to the side. The aggression faded from his body language, replaced by confusion. Jake knelt down, making himself smaller and less threatening. He kept his voice calm and friendly. Hey there, that was a good growl. You startled me. Kresh looked down at the mess on the floor. His ears drooped. Jake recognized that look. It was the same look human kids got when they knew they had messed up. Accidents happen, Jake said. He started picking up the spilled food. No big deal. After a second, Kresh knelt down and started helping. His small clawed hands carefully gathered pieces of food and put them on the tray. The growling had stopped completely. They cleaned up the mess together. Jake could feel everyone watching, but he ignored them. He focused on the task and on the small alien next to him. When they finished, Jake stood up. Kresh stood too. The cub looked up at him with those huge golden eyes. Thank you, Kresh said. His voice was high and young. No problem. Heavy footsteps approached. Commander Veshitral walked up, moving fast for something so large. The adult Chrython looked down at Jake with an expression that was hard to read. Lieutenant Morrison, the commander said slowly. Did you just growl at my son? Yes, sir. It seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Veshitral looked at his son. Kresh chittered something in the Chrython language, speaking quickly and gesturing with his small hands. The commander's eyes widened slightly. He says you are packmate brave, Veshitral said. In our culture, this is a high honor. Most species would have run from even a cub's threat display. Most species probably did not evolve dodging lions and bears, Jake said. Lions? Bears? Earth predators. Big ones. We learned early that sometimes you have to stand your ground. Veshitral studied Jake for a long moment. Something like respect crossed his features. There are stories about humans. We thought they were exaggerated. Perhaps we were wrong. The commander put a large hand on his son's shoulder and guided him away, but Kresh looked back at Jake one more time. The cub's expression was different now. Not scared or aggressive. Something else, admiration maybe, or curiosity. Jake walked back to his table. The mess hall slowly returned to normal noise levels, but he could feel eyes following him. Amy was shaking her head. That was insane. Probably, Jake agreed. His hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Raxlin was staring at him with an intensity that made Jake uncomfortable. You faced a cub's challenge without fear, and then you laughed. I do not understand humans. We laugh when we're nervous, Jake explained. It's just something we do. Your fear responses are very strange, Raxlin said. When we are frightened, we become aggressive. Humans become unpredictable. Zektor's crystal body chimed softly. The other species will talk about this. They will say humans are small predators who do not know they should be prey. Great, Jake said. Just what I wanted. to be famous for growling at a kid. But as he finished his meal, Jake noticed something. The other cadets were looking at him differently now. Not with fear or suspicion. With something more like respect. Maybe Zektor was right. Maybe this would change how they saw humans. Not as weak or strange, but as something else. Something that could stand its ground when it needed to. Jake was not sure if that was good or bad. But it was definitely different, and different, he was learning, could be powerful. Word spread fast on Andromeda Station. By the next morning, every cadet knew about the human who had growled at a Crythan cub. The story got bigger with each telling. Some versions had Jake wrestling the cub. Others had him staring down the commander himself. Jake tried to ignore it. He went to training, did his exercises, and focused on his work. But he could not escape the looks. Other cadets stared at him in the hallways. Some moved aside when he passed. Others nodded with respect. The Crythan cadets were different now. Before, they had kept their distance from most species. Now they approached the humans more often. During combat training, several Crythans asked to spar with Jake and Amy. Raxlin seemed particularly interested. The young Crythan started seeking Jake out during practice sessions. They sparred together, and Jake learned quickly that Raxlin was holding back less than before. Jake hit the mat hard for the 5th time that morning. His ribs hurt. His shoulder hurt. Everything hurt. Again, Raxlin said, offering a clawed hand to help him up. Jake took it and stood, wincing. "You're not pulling your punches anymore. You asked me not to. You said you wanted real training." "I did say that. I'm regretting it now." They circled each other. Raxlin moved like water, smooth and fast. Jake was slower, but he had learned to predict the Crythan's movements. When Raxlin lunged, Jake sidestepped and used the alien's momentum to throw him. Raxlin hit the mat and rolled back to his feet immediately. His ears were up, alert. "How did you do that?" "I am faster and stronger, leverage, and timing. I can't match your speed, so I use your speed against you." They went again. This time Raxlin was ready for the trick. He feinted left, then struck right. His claws stopped an inch from Jake's throat. "Dead," Raxlin said. "Yeah, good move." They sat down to rest. Amy was sparring with another Crythan across the room. She was holding her own, barely. The human woman had a broken nose and a black eye, but she kept fighting. "You fight strangely," Raxlin said, watching Amy. "Both of you. You take damage that should stop you, but you keep going." "Pain tolerance," Jake said. "Humans can function through a lot of hurt if we need to." "But why? Why continue when you are injured?" "Because stopping means dying. Our ancestors learned that early. If you quit, the predator wins." Raxlin's tail swished thoughtfully. "We have similar instincts, but they make us more aggressive, not more durable. Your species is built to suffer." That's a dark way to put it, but accurate. Jake thought about it, about marathon runners and soldiers and people who climbed mountains just because they were there, about his grandmother who had fought cancer for 3 years and never complained once. "Yeah," he said, "I guess it is." Training got harder after the mess hall incident. The instructors pushed them more. Longer runs, heavier weights, more complicated tactical scenarios. It was like they were testing to see if Squad 7 could handle the new attention. Squad 7 did not break. When Prillin cracked her leg during a climbing exercise, Amy and Jake took turns carrying her. When Zektor could not keep up during a long march, Raxlin slowed his pace to match. When Slesh's water ball malfunctioned, everyone stopped until it was fixed. They were becoming more than a squad. They were becoming a unit, a team, maybe even something like friends. Commander Veshetral called Jake to his office on the 4th day after the incident. The office was filled with weapons and animal skulls. Hunting trophies from the Crythan homeworld. They looked dangerous even dead. "Sit," Veshetral said. Jake sat. The chair was too big for him. Everything on this station was built for larger species. "I have been reviewing the psychological profiles of all cadets," the commander said. "Your incident with Kresh has made me reconsider our understanding of humanity." "I hope that's a good thing, sir." "The Galactic Council has debated humanity's place for years. Many species see you as weak, soft, barely worth noticing. They look at your size, your fragile bodies, your short lives, and they dismiss you." Jake stayed quiet. He had heard this before. Earth was the new kid, and nobody took the new kid seriously. "But we Crythans recognize something others miss," Vestral continued. He leaned forward, those golden eyes intense. "We see predators. And humans, Lieutenant Morrison, are predators. Not apex predators like us. Something different. Something maybe more dangerous. I'm not sure I'd call humans predators, sir. No? Then what would you call a species that hunted mammoths to extinction? That spread across an entire planet, adapting to every environment? That looked at the stars and decided to reach them? Jake had never thought about it that way. You are persistence predators, Veshetral said. Patient, relentless. You do not need to be the strongest because you simply do not stop. Your ancestors would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. That instinct is still in you. We're mostly peaceful now, Jake protested. Veshetral's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. Rows of sharp teeth showed. The most dangerous predators are the ones who choose not to hunt. When you growled at Kresh, you showed him something. You showed him that humans understand the language of predators. You did not submit. You did not flee. You met his challenge as an equal. I was just trying to calm him down. And you succeeded. Do you know why? Veshetral stood and walked to the window. Stars filled the view. Because you acted on instinct. Your species evolved to face threats directly. That refusal to back down is written into your nature. He turned back to Jake. Kresh called you packmate brave. This means one who has proven worthy to hunt alongside us. You have earned respect from every Krithan on this station. Jake felt strange, proud but also uncomfortable. He had not meant to become a symbol of anything. He had just reacted. Use this wisely, Lieutenant, Veshetral said. You represent your species here. What you do matters. Yes, sir. I'll try. That night, Squad 7 gathered in their bunk room. Training was over for the day. Everyone was exhausted, but it was a good kind of tired. Slesh was teaching Prillin some kind of tentacle game. Zektor was reading something in his language, the words appearing in holographic light above his hands. Amy was cleaning her equipment, methodical and focused. Raxilin sat on his bunk, sharpening his claws with a special stone. It made a soft scraping sound. The other Krethans are talking, Raxilin said suddenly. They say humans are hollow bones predators. What does that mean? Jake asked. It is from an old Krithan legend, about a small predator with hollow bones that could not fight the big predators directly, so it learned to be smart, to be patient, to outlast everything else. The legend says hollow bones predators are the most dangerous because they never give up. Is that a compliment? Raxlin's ears twitched. Among my people? Yes, the highest compliment. Amy looked up from her work. So we went from being ignored to being legendary. That's quite a jump. You earned it, Zektor said, his voice chiming softly. What Jake did in the mess hall showed courage. Real courage. Not the absence of fear, but action despite fear. I was terrified, Jake admitted. Exactly, Prillin said. Her crystal body glowed warm colors. You were afraid, but you acted anyway. That is true bravery. Jake looked around at his squad. These beings from different worlds, different biologies, different cultures. A month ago they had been strangers. Now they trusted each other with their lives. We have the final test soon, Raxilin said. The survival exercise. Many squads will fail. We won't, Amy said firmly. How can you be sure? Amy smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had been through hell and walked out the other side. Because we're Squad 7 and Squad 7 doesn't quit. Raxilin's tail swished. Hollow bones predators. Damn right, Jake said. Outside their window, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere out there was a hostile moon where they would be tested, where many of them might fail or get hurt or worse, but Jake was not worried. Not really. He had his squad. They had each other, and as Veshetral had said, humans did not stop. They endured. They persisted. The galaxy was about to learn exactly what that meant. The final test was simple in concept, but brutal in execution. Each squad would be dropped on a hostile moon. They had 72 hours to reach the extraction point. The terrain was deadly. Indigenous predators roamed freely. Weather conditions were extreme. Many squads would fail. Some might not come back at all. Squad 7 prepared their equipment in silence. They checked their supplies 3 times. Food, water, medical kits, emergency beacons. Everything had to be perfect. Jake tightened the straps on his pack and looked at his squad. Amy was calm, her face set in concentration. She had done missions like this before. Raxilin checked his claws and stretched his muscles. The Krethan looked eager, ready. Zektor and Prillin worked together, making sure their crystal bodies were reinforced at the joints. Slash floated quietly, tentacles moving in nervous patterns inside the water ball. Remember the plan, Amy said. We stay together. We watch each other. We don't take stupid risks. Agreed, Raxelin said. The indigenous predators on this moon are dangerous. Even for Chrythons. What kind of predators? Jake asked. Deathstalkers. 8 legs, armored skin, venom that paralyzes in seconds. They hunt in packs. Great, anything else I should know? The volcanic activity is unpredictable, and the temperature drops to freezing at night. This is going to be fun, Amy muttered. The dropship carried them down through thick clouds. Jake caught glimpses of the moon's surface. Jagged mountains, dense forests that looked black even in daylight. Rivers of glowing red that had to be lava. The ship landed hard. The door opened and heat rushed in. It was like opening an oven. Move out, the pilot said. Good luck. They stepped onto alien soil. The ground was rough volcanic rock. The air smelled like sulfur and burning metal. In the distance, something howled. It did not sound friendly. Which way? Frillin asked. Raxelin checked his navigation device. Northeast. 40 kilometers. We can make that in 2 days if we push, Amy said. They started walking. The first day went well. They made good progress, following valleys between the mountains. The heat was oppressive, but they managed. They avoided a group of deathstalkers by climbing higher into the rocks. Raxelin spotted them first, his predator instincts sharp. Jake saw one of the creatures through his scope. 8 legs like a spider, but each leg was thick with muscle. Armor plating covered its body. Its head was mostly mouth full of curved teeth. He was glad they were going around instead of through. Night fell fast on this moon. One moment there was red sunlight, the next it was dark. The temperature dropped immediately. They made camp in a cave that Zektor found. Raxelin took first watch. Jake sat with him near the cave entrance while the others slept. You are quiet tonight, Raxelin observed. Just thinking. About what? About how far we've come. A month ago we were strangers. Now I'd trust any of you with my life. Raxelin's ears twitched. I feel the same. This is unusual for Chrythans. We do not usually bond with prey species. Do you still see us as prey? Raxelin was quiet for a moment. No, not anymore. You are packmates. That is different. What made you change your mind? Many small things. But mostly watching you train. Watching you refuse to quit even when you should. Watching you help others when you yourself are struggling. These are not prey behaviors. These are pack behaviors, Jake smiled. Hollow bones predators. Yes, I understand that legend now. I did not before. The second day started badly. They were crossing a canyon when the ground gave way. Prillin dropped through a sinkhole with a crystalline scream. Raxelin lunged forward and caught her arm before she fell into darkness. But his weight destabilized more ground. The entire section of canyon floor began collapsing. Jake felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. He was falling and there was nothing to grab. He hit water hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. Water, underground river, strong current. He could hear the others shouting, their voices echoing off stone walls. The current pulled him along through complete darkness. He tried to swim, but the water was too fast. Sound off. Amy's voice cut through the chaos. Everyone okay? Here, Jake managed to say. Here, from Raxelin, present, from Zektor. His voice strained. Alive, from Prillin. Sounding terrified. Slesh made a bubbling sound that Jake hoped meant okay. The current carried them for what felt like forever. Jake's muscles burned from fighting the water. Finally, he felt the current weakening. His feet touched bottom. He pulled himself toward what he hoped was shore. The others emerged from the water one by one. Bioluminescent fungi on the cave walls provided dim blue light. Jake did a quick check. Slesh's breathing apparatus was cracked and leaking. Zektor had fractures running through his crystal body. Prillin was barely conscious, her glow very dim. Raxelin had torn something in his left arm from catching Prillin. Amy had a deep cut on her forehead that bled down her face. Jake had bruises everywhere, but nothing broken. He seemed to be the least hurt, which felt wrong somehow. Status, Amy said, already working on Slesh's apparatus with their repair kit. Bad, Raxelin said. He looked at his navigation device. Water had ruined it. We are off course. I do not know where we are. We have less than 24 hours to reach extraction. Slesh needs medical attention, Amy said. And Prillin can barely move. Jake looked at his squad. They were hurt, lost, and running out of time. Any rational person would activate the emergency beacon and call for rescue. But Jake had not felt rational since falling into an underground river. The water flows downhill, Jake said slowly. Rivers always find a way out. If we follow it, we'll reach the surface eventually. That could take days, Zektor protested weakly. Then we'd better move fast, Amy said. She understood immediately. She finished her temporary fix on Slesh's apparatus and stood. Jake's right. Staying here won't help anyone. Raxlin looked between the two humans. His golden eyes reflected the blue fungus light. Your species never gives up, does it? Not really our thing, Jake said very well. We follow the humans' plan. They made stretchers from emergency supplies. Jake and Amy took turns carrying Prillin while Raxlin, despite his injured arm, helped support Slesh's heavy water ball. Zektor navigated, his cracked body clicking with each step. Time became meaningless in the cave system. They walked through tunnels lit by glowing fungi. The underground river gurgled beside them, leading them forward. Every step hurt. Every breath was an effort. They encountered cave creatures, pale things with too many eyes that scattered when Raxlin growled. Once they had to swim across a deep pool, nearly losing Prillin in the process. Jake's body screamed at him to stop. His legs felt like they were made of lead. His shoulders burned from carrying Prillin, but he kept moving, one foot in front of the other. That was all he could do. Keep going, Amy stumbled beside him. Jake caught her. I've got you, he said. I know. They walked for hours. Maybe 6 hours. Maybe 10. Jake lost count. Finally, he saw it. Light ahead. Real light, not the blue glow of fungi. Sunlight. There, he said, his voice rough. They emerged from the cave onto a hillside. The extraction point was visible in the distance. Shuttles waited there, ready to leave. We are not going to make it, Zektor said. His voice was fading. It is too far. We are too damaged. Jake looked at the distance. Maybe 5 kilometers. They had 90 minutes left. Any sane person would agree with Zektor. They were done, finished. But Jake had stopped being sane somewhere back in those caves. Amy, can you carry Slesh? She looked at the Kalari, then back at him. Something fierce came into her eyes. Yes, Raxlin. Prillin? The Krithan flexed his injured arm and grimaced. I can manage, then let's go. Zektor, stay between us. If you fall, we catch you. They ran. It was not fast. It was not pretty, but it was relentless step after step. When Zektor stumbled, Jake caught him. When Amy's legs started to give out, Raxlin supported her. When Raxlin's injured arm finally failed, Jake took Prillin's weight. The extraction point got closer. Meter by meter, the shuttles were preparing to leave. They could see other squads boarding. Squad 7 pushed harder. They crossed the extraction zone threshold with 90 seconds to spare. Jake collapsed on the shuttle deck. His vision was gray around the edges. His lungs felt like they were on fire. Every muscle in his body had given up. Commander Veshetral stood over them. His expression was unreadable. Squad 7, he said formally. You were the last squad to extract. You also traveled the longest distance under the worst conditions with the most injuries. Jake tried to respond, but his lungs would not cooperate. Veshetral continued. In 300 years of this exercise, only 12 squads have successfully extracted with all members alive and present. You are the 13th. The commander's voice held something Jake had never heard before. Pride. And the first squad led by humans. The medical bay smelled like antiseptic and alien medicine. Jake lay on a bed that adjusted to his body shape automatically. It was comfortable, but he could not relax. His mind kept replaying the last 72 hours. Across the room, the rest of Squad 7 was being treated. Slesh's breathing apparatus was being fully repaired by technicians. Prillin was in some kind of crystal healing chamber, her body slowly regaining its glow. Zektor was having his fractures sealed with a special compound. Raxlin sat still while a medic worked on his torn arm. Amy was in the bed next to Jake. Her forehead had been stitched up. She had 3 broken ribs and severe dehydration, but she was awake and alert. We did it, she said quietly. Yeah, we did. I thought we were dead in those caves. Me too. But we kept going. That's what humans do. Amy smiled, then winced because it pulled at her stitches. Hollow bones predators. A doctor approached Jake's bed. The alien looked like a walking plant with leaves instead of hair and bark-textured skin. Lieutenant Morrison, you have severe muscle strain. minor dehydration and extensive bruising, but nothing permanent. You should rest for 3 days. What about the others? All will recover. The Quillari needed the most work, but the repairs are complete. The Velcrin will heal slowly but fully. The Crithan has minor tissue damage that should repair naturally. Thank you, Doctor. The plant doctor made a rustling sound that might have been a laugh. You humans are remarkably durable. I have treated many species, but few can function as well as you do while injured. After the doctor left, Jake closed his eyes. He was so tired. Not just physically. The kind of tired that went bone deep, but it was a good tired. They had done the impossible. They had survived. The next day, Squad 7 was summoned to Commander Veshtral's office. They walked there together, moving slowly because everyone was still sore. The office looked the same. Weapons on the walls. Hunting trophies everywhere. But today there were other Crethan officers present. Important ones, judging by their uniforms. Squad 7, Veshtrel said. These are council members from the Crethan homeworld. They wanted to meet you. One of the officers stepped forward. He was older than Veshtrel, with gray streaking his black fur. His eyes were sharp and calculating. I am High Commander Drexcal, he said. I have reviewed the recordings of your final test. What you accomplished should not have been possible. Jake was not sure if that was a compliment or an accusation. You were injured, lost, and running out of time, Drexcal continued. Logic dictated that you should have called for rescue. Yet you chose to continue. Why? Amy spoke up. Because giving up was not an option, sir. But you would have survived by calling for rescue. You would have lost points, but you would have lived. Why risk death? Because we're a squad, Jake said. We don't leave each other behind. We don't quit, Drexcal's tail swished. This is the human philosophy? To persist regardless of odds? It's not philosophy, Amy said. It's just who we are. The High Commander looked at each member of Squad 7. You are aware that you have become famous? The story of Squad 7 has spread across the station. Other species talk about the humans who would not stop. The Velcrin who trusted them, the Quillari who followed them, and the Crethan who called them packmates. Raxilin straightened despite his sore arm. They earned that title, High Commander. Indeed. That is why I am here. Drexcal gestured to Veshtrel. Commander, proceed. Veshtrel stepped forward holding a box. He opened it to reveal 6 medals. They were simple but beautiful, made of dark metal with a strange symbol etched into them. These are pack honors, Veshtrel said. They are given to those who exemplify the highest virtues of the Crethan warrior culture. Courage, loyalty, and persistence. In 300 years, only 50 have been awarded to non-Crethans. Today we award 6 more. He pinned a medal on each squad member. When he reached Jake, the commander paused. You changed how we see humans, Lieutenant Morrison. You showed us that size and strength are not the only measures of a predator. Sometimes it is the will to continue that matters most. Thank you, sir. After the ceremony, Squad 7 walked back to their bunk in silence. The medals felt heavy on their uniforms. Not physically heavy. Heavy with meaning. Back in their room, they sat together. Nobody spoke for a while. Finally, Slesh broke the silence. What happens now? Training is complete. We return to our homeworlds, Zektor said. We report what we learned. And then? Krillin asked. Then we serve, Raxilin said. As officers. As ambassadors. As symbols of what different species can accomplish together. I don't want to be a symbol, Jake said. I just want to do my job. Too late, Amy said with a smile. You growled at a cub and became famous. You're stuck with it now, Jake groaned. I'm never going to live that down, am I? Never, everyone said together. They laughed. It felt good to laugh. After everything they had been through, laughter was like medicine. What will you tell them about humans? Jake asked Raxilin. On your homeworld. The Crethan thought for a moment. I will tell them the truth. That humans are persistence predators. That they do not stop. That they form bonds across species. That they laugh in the face of danger and growl back at threats. And that they are the most surprising species I have ever met. That seems fair, Jake said. What will you tell Earth about Crythans? Raxilin asked. That you're not as scary as you look. That underneath the teeth and claws, you value loyalty and courage. That you can be trusted, and that you make pretty good friends once you get past the whole predator thing. Raxilin's ears twitched with amusement. Also fair. The last day on Andromeda Station was bittersweet. Squad 7 packed their belongings slowly, not wanting the moment to end. Other squads came by to say goodbye. Some asked for advice. Some just wanted to meet the famous Squad 7 in person. Jake signed more autographs than he ever thought he would in his life. Young Kresh showed up with his father. The cub looked at Jake with those huge golden eyes. "Will I see you again?" Kresh asked. "Maybe. The galaxy's a big place, but you never know. When I am grown, I want to be brave like you." Jake knelt down to the cub's level. "You're already brave. You just need to learn when to use that bravery. Not every situation needs aggression. Sometimes the bravest thing is to be gentle." Kresh nodded seriously. Then very carefully he held out his small clawed hand. Jake took it and shook. "Packmates," Kresh said. "Packmates," Jake agreed. At the shuttle bay, Squad 7 stood together one last time. They would board different ships heading to different parts of the galaxy. This might be the last time they saw each other. "Stay in touch," Amy said. "Obviously," Prillin said. Her crystal body glowed warm colors. "Do not forget what we learned here," Zektor added. "I could not forget if I tried," Slesh said through the speaker. Raxlin looked at Jake and Amy. "Thank you for showing me that predators can be more than their instincts." "Thank you for trusting us," Jake said, "for being willing to work with humans when most of your species probably thought it was a bad idea." "It was the best idea," Raxlin said firmly. They exchanged contact information. They promised to meet again someday. They said all the things people say when they do not want to admit they are saying goodbye. Finally, it was time to board. Jake took one last look at his squad. These beings from different worlds who had become his closest friends, who had trusted him with their lives, who had taught him that the galaxy was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than he ever imagined. "See you around." "Squad 7, he said. "See you around?" "Jake," they replied. Jake boarded the shuttle back to Earth. As the station grew smaller in the viewport, he thought about everything that had happened. He had come here as just another soldier. Now he was returning as something else. An ambassador, a symbol, a packmate, all because he had growled at a predator cub and laughed. It was funny how small moments could change everything. One decision, one action, one sound, and the course of a life shifted. Jake had not meant to become famous. He had not meant to change how species saw each other. He had just reacted in the moment following his instincts, but maybe that was the point. Maybe the best things happened when you stopped overthinking and just acted, when you faced your fears head on, when you refused to back down even when logic said you should. Earth appeared in the viewport, a blue marble against the black of space. Home. But Jake knew he was not the same person who had left. He had changed, grown, learned. He had learned that the universe was full of predators and prey, but those labels did not have to define you. That courage came in many forms. That different did not mean dangerous. That trust could be built across any divide if both sides were willing to try. Most importantly, he had learned that humans had a place in the galaxy, not as the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but as persistent predators, as beings who simply did not stop, who formed bonds and kept promises and faced challenges with determination and sometimes a little bit of laughter. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere. Jake watched clouds rush past the viewport. Somewhere down there, people were waiting to hear his stories, to learn what he had discovered among the stars. He would tell them about Squad 7, about Krathens who respected courage, and Velkrin who valued intelligence, and Quillari who saw past differences. He would tell them that humanity's greatest strength was not physical power,